Okay, so let's unpack this. The political air in Nigeria, it's already thick with anticipation, right? Even though we're still, what, a good 2 years out from the official 2027 elections.
That's right. And the buzz isn't just a whisper. It feels more like a palpable hum of public expectation.
Exactly. There's this widespread, almost insistent demand from people for, well, a new era of transparency, accountability, and maybe most crucially, ethical leadership.
It really does feel less like just a political preference and more like a foundational expectation. It's shaping the whole national conversation.
Yeah, and in a landscape where public trust is, well, increasingly seen as the absolute bedrock of legitimate governance, what happens when a leader's personal history, especially their foundational records, comes under renewed, really intense scrutiny?
Mm-hmm.
That's precisely what we're diving into today.
Yeah, it's a critical issue.
Our central focus is that absolutely critical role that trust, underpinned by verifiable information, plays in leadership, particularly when it concerns a leader's academic and personal background.
It really is about establishing that sort of unimpeachable connection between a leader's past and their present legitimacy.
Right.
Indeed. And our main source for this deep dive gives us a very recent and frankly potent example of how these calls for transparency are actually playing out right there on the ground in Nigeria.
So what are we looking at?
We're drawing our insights from this compelling article published just yesterday, June 24th, 2025, in Restore Nigeria News. And the title says a lot. Mr. President, come clean with your records. Atiku.
Okay, punchy.
Very. And this article, it doesn't just report a story, it really captures a significant moment in the ongoing national conversation about, well, the verifiable background of those holding power.
So our mission today isn't just recounting facts then?
No, not at all.
Right.
It's really about embarking on a crucial exploration of the concerns being raised by various prominent groups, individuals regarding governmental transparency and really the integrity of leaders in Nigeria.
Mm-hmm.
We'll unpack the specific details from this source. We'll look closely at the pointed questions being posed and consider what this all means for, millions of Nigerians who are ardently seeking genuine change and accountability as we head towards 2027.
It's more than just one incident, isn't it?
Oh, definitely. It speaks to a much broader yearning for verifiable truth in public office.
Absolutely. So, okay, let's set the scene. How did this latest kind of unexpected discussion even start dominating the headlines?
Well, it all kicked off on Monday, June 24th, 2025, right there in Abuja.
Okay.
President Bola Tinubu was presiding over the inauguration of what was meant to be, a landmark initiative, the Renewed Hope Agriculture Mechanization Program.
Right, I remember seeing reports about that. Significant program.
Huge. This wasn't some minor ribbon cutting. This was the official unveiling, the deployment of 2,000 tractors and 9,000 specialized farming tools.
So a big deal for agriculture.
A very big deal. It represents a tangible commitment to modernizing Nigeria's agricultural sector. A critical step towards food security, economic diversification.
So you'd naturally expect the focus to be squarely on that, on farming, on yield.
Exactly. On empowering farmers, the tangible benefits these new tools would bring. That should have been the story of the day.
Right.
But then, right in the middle of this significant public event, something quite unexpected happened. Something that completely shifted the narrative away from tractors and yields.
Towards personal history and public trust.
Precisely. It was right there, during what was supposed to be an agricultural policy event, that President Tinubu made this unprompted and honestly quite surprising comment.
What did he say?
He mentioned a man whom he identified as both a former neighbor and a classmate from his time at Chicago State University, CSU, in the U.S.
Okay, just out of the blue.
Seemingly, he wasn't just casually referencing someone. He quoted him directly, quite effusively, actually. He said, "My dear, very good friend, the story must be clear here. Alex Zingman, how are you? Thank you and congratulations."
Wow. Okay.
And then he elaborated further to sort of cement the connection for the audience. "To all of you, Alex was my very good neighbor and went to the same school with me in Chicago."
The timing and the spontaneity.
Yeah.
That must have immediately struck people.
Oh, absolutely. It was very striking to many observers.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. The president didn't just stop there, did he?
No, he didn't. He went on to articulate this rather grand vision for this connection.
What was the quote?
He said, and I quote, "Never did we dream that I would be in this position as the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and that Alex will be a successful businessman from Belarus to bring about a very successful collaboration and bilateral relationship that would promote economic prosperity for the future of our two countries."
At an agricultural event.
At an agricultural event. And he concluded this sort of unexpected interlude by adding, "I believe our university will be very proud that we are doing this here today."
Now think about that. That wasn't a pre-prepared statement for some diplomatic summit or an international business forum.
Not at all. It felt very much like an unscripted aside at this agricultural program inauguration.
Definitely wasn't part of the planned agenda.
No. And yet it immediately sent these significant ripples across the political landscape. It was a spontaneous moment, yes, but one with immediate, profound, and far-reaching implications.
Setting off a chain reaction of questions that, well, quickly overshadowed the whole point of the event, right?
Completely overshadowed it. And what's truly fascinating here is precisely how a single, seemingly spontaneous comment delivered in such an unexpected context can instantly reignite a really deeply rooted controversy.
Especially when public trust in official records and the integrity of public figures is already such a sensitive issue.
Exactly. The Restore Nigeria News article highlights that President Tinubu's unprompted assertion immediately sparked renewed debate regarding the validity of his academic credentials.
And this is crucial, isn't it? This isn't a brand new issue for the president.
Not by a long shot. His educational background, particularly his claimed attendance and graduation from Chicago State University, has been contentious. A point of intense scrutiny, really, ever since the 2023 presidential election.
A very highly contested election.
Very. And for many Nigerians, those questions were just never fully answered. They lingered.
So this comment, rather than just being a friendly anecdote or a nod to an old friend,
it became this unexpected catalyst for re-examining those long-standing, unresolved questions, pushing them right back into the harsh glare of the public spotlight with renewed intensity.
it brought back all those doubts that had just been sort of simmering beneath the surface.
Precisely. The focus shifted almost instantly from agricultural mechanization and national development to something entirely different.
Something much more personal, and for many, much more politically charged, more emotionally resonant.
Definitely. The article details how investigations by online users and political analysts quickly connected the Alex individual referenced by the president to Mr. Alex Zingman, a Belarusian national.
And that rapid identification itself, that says something, doesn't it? About citizen journalism, online scrutiny today.
Oh, absolutely. It's a testament to the power of it. Within hours, the internet was just buzzing. You had individuals, groups, meticulously cross-referencing names, dates, public records.
It shows how quickly information spreads now, how intensely it's scrutinized.
And how challenging it is for public figures to control narratives in this era where, everyone with a smartphone is potentially an investigator.
Especially when the subject involves public figures and questions of integrity.
Exactly. And that scrutiny, well, it quickly unearthed some deeply troubling information about this Mr. Zingman, going far beyond just a simple biographical sketch.
What did the source say?
The Restore Nigeria news source explicitly mentions that Mr. Zingman's name has appeared in various international reports concerning alleged arms trafficking and dubious financial activities in regions of Africa, including Zimbabwe and the Democratic Republic of Congo.
Wow. Arms trafficking and dubious financial activities, those are serious allegations.
Extremely serious. These aren't minor infractions we're talking about, especially arms trafficking in the African context. That directly fuels conflict, destabilizes nations, causes immense human suffering.
Undermines the very fabric of governance.
Precisely. Activities that perpetuate violence, exploitation, often at the expense of ordinary citizens, and dubious financial activities, well, that speaks to a lack of transparency, potential corruption, siphoning resources.
Resources that could be used for national development.
Exactly. So for a national leader, the president of Nigeria, to publicly and, remember, effusively associate with an individual whose international reputation is shrouded in controversy, as Atiku's team put it, that's incredibly noteworthy.
It raises serious questions, doesn't it? About judgment, discernment, the company a leader keeps.
Absolutely. Especially when that company has a history of alleged illicit destabilizing activities on the very continent Nigeria is trying to lead towards peace and prosperity.
It casts a shadow.
A significant shadow over the legitimacy of any potential future collaborations, and by extension, over the leader himself.
But the real kicker, I think, the core factual inconsistency that immediately jumped out and caused such widespread, well, incredulity. It revolves around a glaring age discrepancy.
Yes. This is where it gets really hard to reconcile.
The source states, pretty unequivocally, that records that have come to light indicate that Mr. Zingman was born in 1966. Okay.
Right. A verifiable piece of information.
Now you take that, 1966, and you contrast it with President Tinubu's publicly declared Chicago State University graduation year, which is 1979. 1979.
The math just doesn't add up. Let's just do that quick calculation again. If Zingman was born in 66 and Tinubu claims graduation in 79, that implies Zingman would have been merely 13 years old at that specific time.
13 years old.
Yeah.
Think about that for a moment. Graduating from a university, an American university like CSU.
And being a peer, a classmate, in a full university program at age 13.
It's highly improbable, to put it mildly.
Mildly is right. This age discrepancy, as you point out, it's not some minor detail you can just brush aside or blame on a simple mistake.
Wow.
It fundamentally challenges the entire premise of the shared history the president presented to the nation just days ago.
And Atiku Abubakar's team, they certainly didn't miss that, did they?
Oh, they jumped right on it. Remember, he was the primary opponent in 2023, and his team has consistently pursued these questions. They didn't mince words.
What did they say?
They highlighted the sheer absurdity of it with this very pointed rhetorical question, designed to just underscore the improbability of the claim. They asked, are we now to believe that the Guinness Book of Records missed the story of a 13-year-old Belarusian prodigy graduating from an American university alongside Bola Ahmed Tinubu?
That's quite the statement. Leans right into the logical impossibility.
It does, and it raises this critically important question about coherence, about the expectation of factual accuracy from high office.
Because when basic biographical details are inconsistent, especially when presented spontaneously from the highest office,
it directly impacts public perception. It erodes trust in the reliability of any official statements.
the implications of such a glaring, seemingly impossible inconsistency are huge.
They are, because it forces the public to question the veracity of the entire shared narrative, leading to deeper skepticism about the individual's whole background. It's not just an isolated error anymore.
It becomes like a crack in the foundation of public trust.
A significant crack.
So what does this all mean for the average Nigerian watching this unfold? The numbers, quite simply, they just don't add up. Comparing the alleged birth year with the president's claimed graduation date,
Right.
it doesn't just create a huge question mark about this specific claim regarding Alex Zingman, does it?
No, it casts a much broader shadow of doubt over the whole narrative of the president's educational background, which, as we've said, has been contentious for a long time.
And as the source reminds us, this isn't the first time President Tinubu's education has been under the microscope. This recent comment about Mr. Zingman just seems to have, well, reopened old wounds.
Definitely. It brought a long-standing, unresolved debate right back to the forefront with new intensity and, frankly, new layers of complexity.
Right. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, it really highlights this recurring, very significant theme in Nigerian politics, doesn't it?
Absolutely, which is
The persistent calls for greater transparency regarding official records, particularly those pertaining to public figures, especially those at the very top.
precisely. The Restore Nigeria News article serves as a powerful reminder that former Vice President Atiku Abubakar had previously submitted a legal request in a U.S. court for the release of the president's academic records from CSU.
Right, that legal action, it was quite extensive.
It was, and it yielded complex results. While the university itself did confirm that Bola Tinubu did graduate from the institution, the report states that doubts arose due to alleged discrepancies found in the certificate submitted to Nigeria's Electoral Commission, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC.
And that's not a minor detail. If the certificate given to INEC, the electoral body itself, has alleged discrepancies, that creates a crisis of confidence right there.
A huge one. So that prior legal action, it really set a powerful precedent for this kind of rigorous scrutiny. It shows this new incident with Mr. Zingman isn't isolated.
It's part of a pattern.
A persistent and, for many, intensifying pattern of questions surrounding the president's academic credentials.
It really underscores that for many Nigerians, the integrity of a leader's past, especially their verifiable educational journey, the documents, it's seen as absolutely foundational.
Foundational to their integrity, their fitness for office.
Yeah.
Without clarity on these basic facts, it becomes incredibly difficult to build that comprehensive trust needed for effective governance.
And it seems, looking at the source, that the questions aren't just limited to Chicago State University anymore, are they?
No, not at all. This narrative, as presented by Atiku's media office, it extends to a much broader pattern across different claimed institutions, different dates.
The article quotes them characterizing the president's comments as part of a larger trend of obfuscation. Let's unpack that word, obfuscation.
Right, it means a deliberate attempt to make something unclear, confusing, difficult to understand.
So they're suggesting this isn't accidental.
That's the implication. They underscored a series of purported long-standing inconsistencies regarding Tinubu's educational background, which suggests that for a significant portion of the Nigerian public, these concerns aren't just isolated incidents or unfortunate clerical errors.
They see it as potentially part of a consistent, deliberate narrative that lacks verifiable clarity.
Exactly. It goes to the very root of having a verifiable past, the kind of clear, unambiguous history that many citizens expect, frankly demand, from their leaders in a democracy.
This isn't just about being nitpicky, then. It's about a pattern that, when you look at it all together, raises serious questions about the transparency of a leader's foundational biography.
And this level of detail, this persistent questioning, brought forward by a prominent opposition figure, it really does shift the conversation. For maybe one alleged discrepancy,
To what's being portrayed as a deeply troubling pattern of inconsistencies.
and for many Nigerians, that cumulative effect is far more impactful. Let's look at some specifics the article mentions. For instance, Atiku's team directly questioned the president about his claimed attendance at Government College, Lagos.
Okay, what was the question?
A very pointed one. Mr. President, Nigerians have the right to understand why, despite your claim of having submitted a certificate from Government College, Lagos, to gain admission into Richard Daley College in 1973, no classmate from that institution has ever come forward to say they shared a desk with you.
Wow, that's significant. Because usually, especially in Nigeria, those school bonds are strong, lifelong connections.
Exactly. The absence of verifiable peers from foundational educational institutions, especially from a time when maybe records weren't perfectly standardized, it contributes to this overarching sense of doubt.
The expectation is you should be able to point to people who were there with you, right? Contemporaries,
Mhm.
schoolmates who can back up that part of your story.
Precisely. That formative educational journey. And the inability to do so year after year for a figure of this prominence. It just raises legitimate questions. Where are the people who can personally vouch for these claims beyond just a piece of paper?
And the inconsistencies, as the article highlights, they certainly don't stop there.
Yeah.
There was another major point raised, right, about a certificate date.
Yes, one that appears, on the surface at least, to be an outright impossibility.
An impossible date. How so?
The statement from Atiku's team highlighted what they called an impossible certificate date. They directly challenged the president, asking, Mr. President, Nigerians have the right to know how a school established in 1972 could have issued you a certificate dated 1970.
Wait, 1970 for a school founded in 1972.
Exactly. The quote finishes, unless you're a solitary prophet of a school that had yet to be founded.
That's not just a minor typo. That's a logical impossibility. A document issued 2 years before the institution it supposedly came from even existed.
It's not a clerical error. It's, as you said, a temporal paradox.
And that kind of fundamental factual error, if it's true, it completely undermines the credibility of the document itself.
And by extension, the entire narrative built around it. It forces this very uncomfortable question. How could such a basic, glaring, factual impossibility exist in official records, especially records pertaining to the president?
This is exactly the type of detail that can just swiftly and deeply erode public trust.
Because it suggests a fundamental disconnect between the stated facts and verifiable reality. It feeds right into that broader narrative that maybe a pattern of deliberate misdirection is at play.
Indeed. That kind of temporal paradox, a certificate predating the institution, that's not something you can easily explain away.
Not with a simple excuse or a misunderstanding, no. It stands out as a huge red flag for anyone scrutinizing these records.
And the questioning, it broadened out too, didn't it, to a general absence of classmates across the board.
Yes, the broader scope, as articulated by Atiku's team, extends to this general, consistent absence of verifiable classmates across multiple claimed institutions.
What was the exact question they posed?
A very direct and quite emotionally charged one. Mr. President, Nigerians have the right to question why you've not proudly revealed a single verifiable classmate from your alleged years at Government College, Lagos Government College, Ibadan, or Chicago State University, as other leaders do with ease and pride.
That societal expectation, it's strong, isn't it? For leaders to be able to easily, proudly verify their past, especially their education.
Very strong. In Nigeria and many democracies, it's common for public figures, especially those who reach high office, to point to classmates, attend alumni events, share those memories.
So when other public figures can readily produce peers from their past, school days, university years.
The persistent inability to do so for such significant periods across multiple institutions, it raises deeply legitimate questions about the completeness, the accuracy of the narrative being presented.
It contributes powerfully to a perception that crucial details are missing, or contradictory, or maybe even deliberately obscured.
Which, in turn, fuels the public's insistent demand for much greater transparency. For an electorate trying to make informed decisions about their leaders, this lack of verifiable personal history becomes a significant hurdle to building that foundational trust.
So, as we bring our deep dive towards a close now, it really all circles back to this core, resounding demand from the Nigerian public.
Mm-hmm.
A demand not just for transparency and governance, but for truth and leadership. For leaders whose personal pasts, their fundamental biographies, can actually withstand rigorous scrutiny.
Yeah.
And this isn't just typical political banter, is it? This isn't simply the opposition taking, pot shots.
Yeah, I don't think so.
This feels fundamental about what it takes to earn and, maybe more importantly, to keep public trust in a democratic system, especially as we look ahead to 2027.
Absolutely. The Restore Nigeria news article makes this demand very clear. It reiterates that powerful, demanding tone from Atiku's media office. Instead of instilling confidence, the assertion has raised more questions than it has answered.
It focuses squarely on the direct demands, doesn't it?
Yeah.
For clarity, for proof, for upholding these fundamental principles many Nigerians hold dear for their leaders.
Absolutely. Because for the Nigerian public, especially those passionately rooting for systemic change, these specific details about academic credentials, age discrepancies, controversial associations, they become far more than just biographical footnotes.
They become proxies.
Powerful proxies for broader, more fundamental issues of honesty, accountability, and the very integrity of the individual holding the highest office.
And the statement from Atiku's team addresses that directly.
Very directly, asserting, and I quote again, "Mr. President, your oath of office obligates you not only to safeguard our nation, but also to uphold its truth."
That's profound. Not just a political jab. It speaks to the nature of public service.
Exactly. The absolute integrity required for the highest office. And they continue, stating with significant weight, the presidency should not serve as a refuge for secrets. It is a platform for integrity.
A powerful articulation of a widely held belief, I think, that a leader's past, especially one informing their public persona, their credentials, their suitability, it has to be an open book.
Right. It can't be a repository of hidden, contradictory, or unverifiable information. Such a stance really reinforces the idea that the foundation of a credible government lies in the unassailable truthfulness of its leaders.
And that concluding sentiment from Atiku's team, quoted in the article, it perfectly encapsulates what millions are seeking. And as such, Nigerians await not tales of Alexas from distant lands, but proof, clarity, and the simple dignity of facts.
The simple dignity of facts. That phrase really drills down to the heart of it.
It connects these urgent demands for verifiable details directly to the broader Nigerian public's profound yearning for a truly transparent, accountable government.
And for leaders who are demonstrably honest, trustworthy, responsible, especially with 2027 approaching rapidly.
This isn't about mere political maneuvering or petty grievances. It's about the very foundation of democratic governance. Building a future where trust isn't just hoped for, but demonstrably earned through a commitment to verifiable truth.
And this is absolutely crucial because the why behind these demands extends far beyond just an individual's biography. These issues are foundational for maintaining public trust, for ensuring genuinely effective governance in a democracy.
If the public can't trust the basic facts presented by their leaders,
Details about their past, education associations, then it inevitably erodes confidence right across the board.
and that erosion isn't just theoretical, is it? You can have real-world consequences.
Oh, definitely. It can lead to widespread cynicism, political apathy, deep skepticism about policy decisions, institutional integrity, the whole democratic process itself.
When foundational facts are questioned, it casts this long, unsettling shadow over everything else.
Absolutely. The integrity of the office fundamentally begins with the integrity of the individual who holds it.
So as the nation looks towards a future shaped by new leadership, the possibility of real change.
The demand for this basic factual accuracy, this unwavering integrity, becomes a non-negotiable cornerstone for determining who is truly fit to lead Nigeria forward.
It speaks to a deeper aspiration, doesn't it? For a political landscape where honesty and verifiable truth aren't just lofty ideals, but deeply embedded requirements for holding power and serving the nation.
Couldn't agree more.
So just to recap our deep dive today, we started with that unexpected revelation about Alex Zingman, a seemingly innocuous comment from the president that quickly spiraled into this renewed, intense national debate about integrity.
Right.
Then we unpacked that glaring age discrepancy, verifiable records showing Zingman born in 1966, making him an improbable 13 years old when the president claims graduation from CSU in 1979.
Hard to ignore.
Which led us to explore the long-standing pattern of inconsistencies regarding academic credentials. Not just CSU, but pressing questions about government college, Lagos, the perplexing absence of verifiable classmates.
And those truly impossible certificate dates that apparently predate the very existence of the institutions they supposedly came from?
And all these details, taken together, they fuel this widespread, insistent public demand for unequivocal clarity and verifiable facts from their leaders, particularly as Nigeria looks towards 2027.
And as you underscored, this isn't just about political skirmishes or settling old scores. It's profoundly about the very essence of trust in leadership and the foundational principles of a functioning democracy.
So the final thought for you, the listener. As Nigerians look with anticipation, maybe some trepidation, but certainly hope towards 2027, that pivotal election year.
What enduring role will this growing demand for verifiable facts, for transparency, for the unwavering pursuit of clarity truly play in shaping the kind of leaders and governance they ultimately choose for their nation?
It really encourages a deeper reflection, doesn't it, on how active public scrutiny, even of seemingly minor or obscure details, contributes fundamentally to the larger democratic process of demanding genuine accountability from those in power.
These are not just whispers in the political winds anymore. They are foundational questions echoing loudly that will undoubtedly shape the future of Nigerian leadership and, crucially, the trust placed in it.